Bro is not. He's not here. He's got both his kids.
Always listen later.
Bro is not. He's not here. He's got both his kids.
That says, can Yellow stop eating lobster and do spaces?
What's up, Yellow? Did I hear Ralphus there behind you?
Yeah, good here.
He's not here. He's got both his kids.
That says, can Yellow stop eating lobster and do spaces?
Shut up, Ralphus. What's up,
We
Yellow?
had-
Hear Ralphus there behind you?
Who is that? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were on.
No, we're not on.
Okay.
We had lobster in a great restaurant. There was like Max and Stacy and Mike Peterson and everybody came in.
All right,
the
sounds
restaurant.
like Pedro's got us streaming, but just I don't see any Odell yet. Yeah,
What?
it's the audio.
What is everybody?
I don't know. We got 4
Uh,
minutes till Odell's officially late, but Becca's at her sister's house, and Sean's probably still at work.
we got to get Rusty. Somebody call him.
That's so bad. Oh, this is all my screen.
Da, 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 da,
Are you gonna hit this hook or no? You're killing me.
I'm about to hit you.
I'm far away from you now. You can't hit me anymore.
What's the hook? What's the hook?
I need you, baby. You know? Or I love
Yeah,
you,
you
baby.
do.
If it's
I
quite
know
all
you do.
right, I need you, baby. You know what I'm talking
I
about?
know. I know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear you say that. That's all that was.
You've been waiting a year for me to tell you I love you, baby. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, technically, it's only been about 5 days since the last time you said that to me, but we were face to face, and you were deathly scared that I was about to lose both my feet. And
I was definitely scared you were gonna lose both feet. It looked like you were gonna lose both feet.
but here I am, still with both feet, shoulders
I'm
peeling.
still standing.
Thank you, Pedro.
Welcome to another meme factory test stream where the guys gather around to say stupid shit like, how about that Bitcoin thing? Or how about that Bitcoin thing? Or the other thing we all love, how about that Bitcoin thing? Meme factory test stream brought to you by the idiots that run it. Meme factory test stream. Take it away, Craig.
How do you expect me to follow up that? I guess by talking about Bitcoin with some idiots.
So, Yellow, how about that Bitcoin thing?
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I saw it. That Bitcoin thing was awesome. How about you, Rob? How did you like it?
I looked at it, I said, wow, would you look at that? It's so orange and it's so out there. It's just so Bitcoin. I like
And
Bitcoin, and
the
I
power
cannot
is now.
lie. That was an intro to
Good
I like
morning.
big butts that you missed the reference. Good morning, Marcus. Good morning.
Marcus.
I think we're live.
Not according to my YouTube app. Nope, it's still showing the.
Yeah, they can hear us,
We can
Oh,
hear
they
you
definitely
guys,
hear
yeah.
us. Oh, of course, yes.
but
So you're live.
This is the banter.
we're live-ish.
This
Live-ish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Video hasn't started
Come on.
yet. Waiting on Pedro.
Well, we're not waiting on Pedro for video. We're waiting on Mr. Odell for video.
Ah, yes. Are we being rugged here?
You know, it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Was it one of your marketing scams again, Greg?
Oh,
You know what, guys? I'm in El Salvador. I was having the lobster while eating also shrimps, walking the sea, and everyone comes in the restaurant. Max Kaiser, Stacy, Mark Herbert, and else. And I'm like, you know what? Imagine if I get my mom Cox cards. Imagine that. How life is gonna be. Pretty shitty. Pretty shitty.
You know what that
Glass is definitely half empty, that's for sure.
Pretty shitty. I'm eating
you
a
might be in the market
blueberry
for some Susquehanna.
smoothie.
If that's the case, you're gonna get some coins.
What?
Chocolate covered seed phrases. Are you sick of watching your friends flaunt their wealth in fiat ways? That Lambo isn't a practical daily driver. No one cares about your McMansion. Private jet? No thanks. You, our distinguished and discriminating listener, have taste. You want to show people how much money you have while simultaneously showing them you don't give a fuck about it. Now you can. The sadists at Chocolate Covered Seed Phrases have taken paper wallets with 100,000 sats each, shredded them, and covered them in chocolate. You can sit down at your desk for a high-powered meeting munching on chocolate covered seed phrases. Show everybody how much money your time is worth by burning sats right in front of them. Leave a bowl of them out in the office coffee
subscribe
table so everyone can
Simply
eat your
Bitcoin.
seed.
Yeah.
Get them out at chocolatecoveredseed.com and use the checkout code GAPDADDY for 15% off your first order. That was the one that CK wouldn't read because he pretended he didn't know how to read.
From the producers
Wow.
that brought you the Bitcoin nachos. That's your hobby, love nachos, but hate Bitcoin? Presented in Bitcoin nachos.
Where did
Hey,
they
Cheese is
get
Odell,
not,
are
that?
you
cheese
there?
is not
It looks
included.
like Pedro has spun us up
Or,
Yay.
because I see
Yeah,
him,
we're live.
but I have
is that
not heard
Odell?
him. I think it might be.
It could be, or it might be Sailor in disguise.
Ooh, we started early, ladies and gentlemen.
Da-da-da-da-da. Gotcha. Gotcha.
You
Gotcha.
did. It'll be running through my head. All Odell.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, there he is.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome
Am I
in.
supposed to turn on my video?
You can if you want to, but you're all about OPSEC, so you're on brand.
Yeah.
What kind of hat is Odell wearing today?
I had
Let's see.
to install Zoom for you guys. That's why I was late. Apologies.
Oh, I believe it.
Forgiven.
Now, Yellow did ask you a question. What kind of hat are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a Citadel Dispatch hat.
It's a good hat. How come you didn't use a bottle that pops?
Sorry to disappoint.
Fair enough. All right, so welcome everybody tonight. We've got Odell joining us on the stream. This evening, I think we're just calling you Odell now, right?
It's true.
Okay. Is that because you think you're big enough to just go one name like Cher or Adele? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I guess.
Wait.
Guilty.
Guilty. All right. So, you know the deal for the stream. we have sent the ad copy for the week over to you. It's self-aggrandizing. I think it's serves your own purposes here. But if you could pull that sucker up and read through it, somebody's going to get paid. I don't think it's us this week, but maybe it's for charity. We'll see.
So I'm just supposed to blindly read this ad copy?
Yes, you're supposed to blindly read the ad copy.
Yes.
Okay. Oh shit, I'm big.
That's what you said with the name and everything, Odell.
Good evening, freaks. I'm pleased to announce that I'm holding a yard sale tomorrow morning at my Citadel. I'm throwing the ultimate yard sale for OpenSats because, not all heroes wear capes or fund developers. So here's what's up for grabs. All my lowercase letters. That's right. I'm selling all my lowercase letters. I don't use them anymore. And let's be honest, I look better in all caps anyway. Twitter blue checkmark, courtesy of Elon himself. It's barely used, but can definitely maybe add a splash of prestige to your online persona. This was free, so I guess I'm not charging for it. My first name. Just call me Odell from now on. I don't have any need for this. Bitcoin Magazine name tag. This probably will not get you into the building though, fair warning. My patience and tolerance. Running low, but might be just what you need to deal with your crypto pushing relatives. A giant pride flag, because I will be staying humble. A full box of I told you so's. You know what, guys? I can't sell this. I still have so many to hand out. So drop by my yard sale, pick up some memorabilia, and help support OpenSats. Your contributions ensure we keep developing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great ad copy.
Yay.
Thank you. We can get paid now.
I don't know if you're listening, but that's going to OpenSats. So that's our
OpenSats.org.
for the year. Since we are an American company.
OpenSats did not pay for that ad. A very tight operations budget.
It is. It's we have a tight operational budget here as well.
Before we start, let's say congrats to Space Cat for the drop of the appeal of fucking Fektosi. Norway is done. We have UK to be done also and have his life and be cool and everything is going to be good again. So
did he win the case officially in Norway today?
Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
And do we have to say all of that?
The Fektosi dropped their appeal or some shit. So the Norway case is done.
Yeah, I don't really understand how any of that works. But good to see.
It is good to see, yeah.
Haldenot's a good dude.
Yeah.
Fuck the UK.
Good job, Haldenot. All right, so this evening we don't have Becca to bring you sandwiches, but she did put a menu together, and Rope is going to go through it with you to get your order. That's all right, Matt. Sorry, Odell.
I have no idea.
Okay,
I sold my first name apparently.
This is gonna I'm gonna try to run through this with my best like Canadian Brit accent for Becca, but it's gonna be a little Scottish also, so just roll with it, okay? I don't really practice much. Oh, good evening there, bud. Bitcoin Becca here. Got 3 sandwiches for you, Odell. The first sandwich, Sammy, is the Spook and Glow Burger Combo. That's right, I said Spook and Glow Burger Combo. FBI certified ostrich meat marinated in Elam's verified tiers and grilled over Elam's government contracts. Comes with a side of Greg's potato fries. The next Sammy I have is the ODELL melt. Creamy eggdell salad with ODELL cold cuts, melted in an MIT lab with a side of sailor slaw and hot take sauce. And then finally, the house special, Yellow's DSB steak Sammy, marinated in Red Bull for 885 days. And new this week, comes with a JBL speaker.
Oh, fuck you, Becca. I mean, you know.
So am I supposed to order one?
Yeah, you got to pick something.
If you couldn't understand me, I'm sorry.
I'll go with the steak sandwich.
Good choice. Good choice.
JBL speakers are like surprisingly, I feel like you get good bang for your buck.
I mean,
of course.
Sean certainly did.
Is Becca Irish now?
Look,
I thought that was more like Scottish. Yeah.
Yeah, we know you just hate Irish people just because. So.
Oh.
All right.
Is Odell an Irish name? What kind of name is that?
Yes, it's an Irish name.
Okay.
Of the Dell, possibly.
Okay. I mean, the context of me joining you guys. When was the last time I joined you guys?
Previously.
It's been years.
It's been a while. I don't know. Greg reached out like a couple days ago, and I just immediately said yes. So, I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Well, you caught my attention.
Excellent.
What if like we don't talk about the subject that everyone wants us to talk about, and we talk about like European football or some shit?
I mean, I don't really follow it that much anymore, but I'm down.
Go ahead, Yellow. Let's talk about you.
No. I don't know. I saw the match. I was in the zone and I saw the match with.
Yeah, how was the having party? Was it dope?
It was good.
It was awesome.
Somehow we made it work.
You guys realize the halving hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict it.
To every wise guy that does that reply to us, I will come back with this. Okay, wise guy, when is the having party exactly? Tell me exactly. When is it? Nobody knows. So I'm going to party about it. You know, I'm going to party my ignorance away.
I actually ran into Preston on the plane to the having party. He's like, "You're coming?" I was like, "No, I'm going on a family trip." It's completely...
Oh, man. What a rug pull.
But yeah, I heard it was good. That's dope.
Yeah, we had a great time. But I want to talk about the fuck you chapter of your life, as you so put it. You started out with a couple of spicy weeks. Blue check mark. Calling Sailor an idiot.
Finally deleted Twitter.
I know, he finally took a while. What's
you see Elon's gonna make it so you can't hide the check mark anymore?
Of course. I didn't see that.
I kind of love it. Well, someone texted it to me.
Was it the blue check mark that pushed you over the line?
There's a bunch of people that probably have a hidden check mark that have just been coasting along, and now they're going to be exposed.
I'm one of those people.
There you go.
Too. But it shows it in spaces, so it's not like that hidden.
Yeah, I mean, Elon did, like, I haven't used Twitter for 6 months. It was just like kind of sitting there. And then he gave anyone who had a certain number of blue check followers an automatic blue check. And I didn't like having it next to my name. And then if I hid it, I didn't like hiding it. Like that felt wrong. Like you couldn't delete it. Like I didn't get verified. I didn't pay for anything, but like you couldn't delete it. So I just deleted the Twitter account. There really wasn't much.
A network effect blue check.
I mean, look, I think for the longest time, like for like a decade plus, like Twitter was my only social media. And like my cope was that it was like the best of the social medias that existed. And then Noster came along and gave me a different option. So like I took that to heart, and now I just use Noster instead.
Smart. I want to talk about ideas more than I want to talk about the
you guys are just dancing around.
Are we just dancing around in the background?
I came on the show because it's hard hitting, you know.
Okay, fuck it. What happened with Sailor? Like, what the fuck happened with Sailor? Is it true?
Where's the proof?
Is it not
Where's
true?
The fucking proof?
Look, I mean, we're sitting at essentially all-time high Bitcoin, right? Greg asked me about like my fuck you chapter in life. I was fortunate enough to this bear market to have my first kid come into the world. Nice. I've been a public figure in Bitcoin for a long time. I'm pretty tired of it, to be honest. Like I used to say, like, if you go back early in the podcast, like our rabbit hole recap, we've done every week for 5.5 years. Like we've never skipped a week. Like Marty had 2 kids. I had a kid. I got married. We both left New York during COVID. Never fucking skipped a week. March 2020, like Bitcoin goes to like 3K. Everyone's like, Bitcoin's going to fucking die. The whole world's ending. Like we still did rabbit hole recap that week. And if you go back to like the early days of Rabbit Hole Recap, I was like, no one can last as a public figure in Bitcoin for like 5 years, 5.5 years, without going crazy or shilling a shitcoin. And like, instead of shilling a shitcoin, I just like deleted my Twitter and I just like say whatever the fuck I want to say.
Going crazy.
You know, like I feel like people wouldn't lose their shit if I just like, oh, it was like he shilled a shitcoin. Like that's what they always do. But I, you know, fuck that shit. I'm not going to shill a shitcoin. But anyway, part of what I've been focusing on for the last 3 years of my life is that open source developers, like the open source contributors that make this movement fucking run, have had trouble finding like reliable support and like advocates that actually back them. And it's because it's hard to fucking do. Like it's, first of all, like people just don't want to give away their money, obviously, and they shouldn't, you know, for the most part, shouldn't give away their money. And then second of all, like if you want to do it in like a high integrity way, it's very difficult. Like there's not money to be made, so people don't do it. So we created OpenSats. Like Ben Price came to me and was like, let's create OpenSats. And let's take no money from it, right? Like a lot of these nonprofits, like they take like 40%, they're like flying around in jets, they're like eating caviar and shit. He's like, let's take no money from it. I was like, really? We're going to take no money from it? Like, what about a little bit of money? Like, what if we take a little bit? He's like, we're going to take no money from it. And we built this board. We have like this dope board of 9 people. And like we saw all the past failures with like open source funding. So we built out this board, this independent board, and then we were like, okay, like what if we go rogue? Like what if one person goes malicious? So let's try and make it as robust as possible. And so we developed this idea that like every grant needs 5 of 9 board members to approve it. So like you need 5 corrupt board members for like shit to go crazy. And let's keep
Liquid.
Like Liquid, yeah. Let's keep all funding in Bitcoin, multi-sig like Liquid. And I guess before all of this, I was like, fuck that shit, too much paperwork. And me and Dennis Reinman created BitcoinDevlist.com. And the idea was you were just going to donate to developers directly. No tax deductible status, nothing. No one fucking donated. Like I still to this day think like the ideal situation would be, especially with Noster, like people just zap devs directly and you don't have any middleman, you don't have any bureaucracy, you don't have any bullshit. But if that's the future that's going to happen, we're still a long way from it, unfortunately. So let's have an organization that is relatively robust, that's relatively hard to corrupt. Let's try and do it the right way. Let's add 501c3 status, which took like a year, fucking ton of paperwork. So corporations can donate and plebs can donate and they can get tax deductible status, right? So they can get a tax write-off, especially in bull runs. People are going to have like crazy taxes. And then let's go out and raise money and then deploy it. And right now we have over 100 grants. And it's fucking dope. Like we're doing the thing. The thing is happening. Our treasury is fucking stacked with coin. Our entire treasury is in Bitcoin. All the grants get paid out in Bitcoin. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of benevolent donors and donors that are just really stepping up to the plate. And I think like every profitable Bitcoin business should be donating. And I would like to see more plebs donate. Like that would be fucking dope. Like you get a tax write-off. If you are paying your taxes, like you should get a tax write-off. And then like over the last 4 months or so like it's fucking grueling process. Like it's exhausting. Like the whole thing is fucking exhausting. And I don't want to, no, don't feel bad for me. Like whatever, like fuck that shit. But like Gigi's fucking working his ass off. Like Ben's working his ass off. Like our board is working their asses off. We're like, you know, trying to get people to donate, trying to do all this stuff. And it like came to my attention about 5 months ago that essentially like Saylor was doing the exact opposite. And I don't think like he would shy away from it. I think it's a topic that he's very outspoken about. And I like tried to back channel with him because I don't have a relationship with him at all. And as I was going through that process, like I've talked to many founders that were like, yeah, he told me, you know, not to support open source contributors.
So
which
wait,
is really frustrating, but it's fine. Like, I don't think he should necessarily, no one should be forced to donate, but like, it should be an open discussion. Like people should be aware of it. Like people should have the conversation and like, yeah, like on Twitter or whatever, you can cancel me about it, but like, at least ask him the fucking question, like have a public, like Just ask Saylor. I'm pretty sure he would just be like, yeah, don't support open source developers.
I mean,
I still haven't seen any
I think he's on
reply from
record
him or any
saying that
response.
code is a liability, not an asset. So I mean, I think he's arguing the biggest risk to Bitcoin isn't like governments or space lasers or power grid off buttons. It's humans tinkering with shit.
Yeah.
And
That's
do you
his
think
perspective.
that's the reason he doesn't want to do?
I mean, I don't want to really have the conversation of like reading tea leaves, but you know,
Fair enough.
like people should have the conversation
So
with him, right? Like, they should have
let's
a public conversation about it.
let's tweak the end of that sentence then. So like, how do we both simultaneously incentivize people to maintain, these
That's the
skills?
problem. It's like 99% of this work is maintenance and review. It's like completely thankless work. We have OpenSats has 100 plus grants out.
Well,
None of
here's
them are
another
software.
question from a pleb in the vein of your answer. What's the difference between upgrading and maintaining? And that's from Frida.
I mean, like
before we go there, we have to ask: did he stop a deal between an ETF and your guys, or
it wasn't us?
okay?
That's the other thing, by the way. Like, even if it was OpenSats, I gain nothing from that. Like, I make no money from OpenSats, period.
Yeah, but like liquidity comes in your project, right? So
it wasn't with OpenSats. It was with another organization.
Okay.
That supports Bitcoin core developers. And they had essentially my understanding is they had a handshake agreement. And then they talked to Saylor and they pulled out of that agreement. And it was really disappointing to see. Like, I mean, I don't think, from my perspective, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that there are a shit ton of ETFs and only 2 are supporting open source contributors. And like, they're not the flashy ones, right? Like Bitwise has been pretty impressive. Like Bitwise is 4th in terms of inflows and like assets under management, but I don't think anyone really expected Bitwise to be like, they're kind of like the underdogs. And then Van Eck is, props to them. Like, I appreciate them supporting open source contributors. They're supporting Brink, but they're on the bottom of like the totem pole of ETFs. And I just think like, yeah, it's been frustrating. All I'm saying is it's been frustrating. And like, maybe I could have phrased things better. Maybe I can always phrase things better. But it's been incredibly frustrating. And for 4 months, it's been all like the darkness and in private, and it should be in the open, and people should be having open discussion about it. And like I said, most of this work is maintenance and review. I've never been a pro soft fork guy. Like, I think Bitcoin should be very conservative and very slow in terms of like actual protocol changes, significant protocol changes. I think Bitcoin is incredibly resistant to protocol changes because you have to actually go out and update your software. Like, all node operators have to go and manually update their software to a protocol change. That's one of the key value props of Bitcoin. But like, if I'm tired, I see a lot of people that have been active in the Bitcoin space for a long time being tired. Our core developers are tired. Like, the open source contributors that everything is being built on top of are incredibly tired. And we need those people they need to be supported. Like, if you can go on, you can say that there's a threat that like devs will do some kind of malicious change to Bitcoin. Sure. But I think the far greater threat is developer apathy. Like, the far greater threat is like, I don't pretend like I can review any of this code, right? Like, there's very few people. There's a handful of people. Like, Saylor can go out and say there's 100 million Bitcoiners. Like, how many Bitcoiners are like actually able to do core work, or even on the side of core, like actual, real robust apps, software that's built on top of Bitcoin that allow us to interact with the protocol in a freedom-oriented way? There's not many of them. It's in the thousands.
And then how many of them have access to make core changes?
Yeah, but I mean, not even that, right? Just like review, just like looking at the code, reviewing the code, improving the code. Like, these things take time. It takes real skill. And like, we have certain people, there's we're building, we have over $1 trillion stored in this fucking asset, and these people aren't being supported. And me and a bunch of other people have focused on trying to support them as much as possible. And it's frustrating when someone who has a lot of sway in the community is privately, encouraging people not to do that, doing the exact opposite. It's already an uphill battle without that. And it's fine. Like, once again, I have no control over anyone, and you shouldn't, like, Bitcoin is not supposed to have any leaders. But it's frustrating, and it should be a public discussion, and people should be aware of it. And that's why
are you gonna be talking more about stuff that is happening behind closed doors that the plebs don't know?
I try and bring to light things that are happening behind the scenes. It's gotten me in trouble lately, but I'm going to continue doing it.
Yeah, stay on brand.
Like, this is not good for, like, a lot of people that I work with are just like, what the fuck, Matt? Like, you're ruffling.
You mean Odell?
Issues.
What
like,
the fuck,
people,
Odell?
Yeah, Odell. I sold my first name.
Thank you.
Like, people have all these conspiracy theories about 1031. Like, do you think, potentially angering the largest known Bitcoin holder besides Satoshi and all the people that love him, angering them is like good for a venture fund? Like, you shouldn't do that. That's usually not what people do. But someone had to say it, and like I said, in this particular instance, it wasn't even my fucking organization.
Not only are you not earning anything from OpenSats, saying something probably hurt you financially is what you're telling us.
Yeah, my favorite conspiracy is I did it for the engagement, so I deleted my Twitter account before I did it, which was really great for engagement.
You and Jason Larry.
Yeah, I mean, look, people should be critical of me. I respect it.
I don't like your shirt.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, your mustache is kind of weird too. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, well, fuck you.
Did you shower today? Is that smell I'm smelling?
Okay, is this a half an hour show, right?
I kind of like the mustache.
All right. Hey, Sean, good to see you, man.
It's good, Sean.
All right, so I want to back up. I had a question earlier that I did want to address. I think it's important. What would you say the difference is between upgrading and maintaining Bitcoin Core? Because I think that might be core to this argument on both sides.
Well, I mean, I think when people think upgrading, they think, or they rightfully should think, is like protocol level changes, soft fork stuff, consensus changes, soft forks, hard forks, and those are right. Like, we shouldn't take those softly. Like, we should be very deliberate and careful, and there should be a ton of review. Like, it should be 4 or 5 years. I mean, part of the reason I left Twitter was because, like, people on Twitter were like making lists. Like, if these 10 people approve this soft fork, like, I'm good with it. I don't need to review it. And like, I was getting listed in the list. I was like, no, fuck you. I don't want to be on that fucking list. Soft forks should be very hard to do. I even like Taproot. Like, I thought Taproot, I was surprised when Taproot got pushed through as quick as possible, like as quick as it did. Like, I thought it was going to take a longer time to happen. So I think that's there should be some, there's real concern there. And I think for the most part, most Bitcoin stakeholders, like actual Bitcoin stakeholders, appreciate that. And especially the organizations that are funding a lot of developers and supporting a lot of developers do appreciate that. And then there's like, there's real maintenance that needs to be done. There's like, I'm not a developer. I interact with developers all the time, every day. And 99% of their work is just, going through the code, making sure everything is smooth, where we can get performance up improvements, like where we can get network level improvements, like where we can get security improvements, and just improving it and making sure it's as robust as possible. And then also, like, as vulnerabilities are exposed, like making sure those vulnerabilities are managed. And then on the OpenSat side, we support a bunch of developers that are not in the Bitcoin core process. Like when it comes to like actual Bitcoin core contributors on OpenSats, we lean on experts in their field to help us with the review process because we don't pretend like we know it. Like we have James O'Byrne on the board, we have Lisa on the board, Nifty Nugget, and we lean on them and we take a lot of advice from them and whatnot. And but then there's also all these tangential things to Bitcoin. One of the examples that I always bring up, and he has never taken any grant funding, but it's something like Sparrow Wallet. Like my life in Bitcoin would be way worse without Sparrow Wallet. And like 99% of his work is just like what we would think of as like accounting. It's like not like pushing out some like great new feature or something like that. It's just like making sure the code fucking works the way it's supposed to work. And that's the majority of development. And we need to support these people. Like they need to be supported, and not just financially. And the financial part is key. But they need to actually have support. They get burnt out just like the rest of us. And it's important that they don't as often as they do.
ODELL, what happens to the so apparently this ETF wants to or has it on their radar to donate to these open source development stuff, and then Sailor says no, don't do it, I'll crush you or whatever. Maybe not the right words, whatever. But did they then actively stop doing it, and why? What are they afraid of Sailor? Like why, and what does it say about the ETFs if they change their mind that easily?
Look, I don't want to get caught up in this one specific example, but it's an important example. Okay. So this was pre-launch of the ETFs. Competition was very tight. And that's why it was, a decent environment to try and get some strong commitments for open source contributors, because they were trying to, let themselves stand out from the pack, right? Like
an election, like almost, right?
Yeah, right. It's like, which ETF am I going to choose to put, 10 million, $100 million in, right?
Right. You got to win some votes.
And so it was like fees, right? It was like contributing to open source contributors. It was like, how are you storing the Bitcoin? But they were like almost all using Coinbase except for Fidelity. I think one was using Gemini, which is like not better, I don't think, but anyway, like they were trying to stand out from each other. And if you have a large holder of Bitcoin that could potentially be a customer for ETFs, and is believed to, has really strong influence among like the suit crowd, like I think there's a strong reason to take what he says to heart and not want to rock the boat. Like I don't think that's like crazy speculation kind of thing, but like I don't pretend to, I think making a decision based on that is a horrible, like you shouldn't, like you should just support open source contributors. I think like if you hold billions of dollars of Bitcoin, like it's bad security practice not to support the open source contributors. Like I just think that's like, it's like living on a boat and not like paying a mechanic. It's like fucking ridiculous. Like the boat might sink. Like you need to like make sure the boat doesn't have holes in it and it's like seaworthy for fucking generations. The more money you hold on it, like the more important it is to do that. So I think there's like a direct non-altruistic reason to support open source contributors. But the bigger concern is not this particular ETF. And like, I don't want to get like caught up in this particular ETF. Like the bigger concern is, I believe that Sailor is part of a contingent of Bitcoiners that is going around mostly in like private meetings and stuff, telling people not to support open source contributors. And like, we should be talking about this publicly. Like it should be a conversation publicly. That's all. Like that's the key.
I want to use a metaphor, if I may. I want to think of just so if people are having trouble wrapping their heads around what at least Sailor, I think, is afraid of and what Matt's saying. If we think of Bitcoin code as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and we think of the devs as like the politicians who maintain and upgrade that code, we've all seen over the last 200 years what can happen with influence in that space. Those risks over a long term seem pretty clear to me. So how do we protect against like threats manifesting to Bitcoin when we've seen such failures protecting the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? I mean, I get the knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, no, I'm not giving money to politicians, they're gonna ruin the thing. But like at the same time, words change over the course of 200 years, so you have to like interpret meaning. I don't know how well it translates to Bitcoin, but I feel like it's a fairly decent metaphor.
Well, like, I think you do have certain conflict of interest issues that happen if there's just one source providing funding for developers, right? Like who pays your rent is going to have influence over you, right? Like that's a concern. It's a real concern. And it's one of the reasons why we should have as many funding sources as possible. It's why I love how Bitwise is set up theirs, where it's literally like split between OpenSats, Brink, and HRF. And then furthermore, it's split from Bitwise, right? It's not like Bitwise is paying out developers directly. And what we've seen historically is like a BitMEX paying a lead maintainer of Bitcoin Core directly, right? Like a straight up exchange paying a developer directly can have some issues. And it's one of the reasons why I want to see stuff like Noster zaps, right? Like where people are just zapping developers that build shit they rely on. Like that is incredibly important. But you also have the other issue, right? Where it's like, if someone isn't able to make a livelihood doing hard work, like it's incredibly difficult work that not many people can do, then they're relatively susceptible to bribes, right? And I don't pretend there's like a perfect solution here. And I think ultimately with Bitcoin, like it comes down to the end of the day, like no Bitcoin software that you rely on, no Bitcoin projects you rely on, first of all, should be closed source. You should be able to review the code before you run it. And even if you can't review the code, like hopefully someone else is reviewing the code because it's open source. And then second of all, they shouldn't have auto updates. Like there shouldn't be a developer somewhere. There's a reason why Bitcoin Core doesn't have auto updates. There's a reason why Sparrow Wallet doesn't have auto updates. Is because if a developer can just like wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to make this change and just like press the update button and just automatically updates, like that's a central point of failure.
Matt, sincerely,
it's just ODELL
now. Sincerely now, is this like a play between? Is this like a battle between like the fucking ETFs to grab liquidity from plebs? Is this kind of narrative we're talking about, or is this really a play from individuals, whales, call it what you want to influence and kind of control to nothingness the development happening around the source code in order to sell more of their ETF products? Like, what is this about, really? What's your opinion? Like, why is this happening?
Look, once again, like I don't want to like read too much into like the tea leaves. Like I really feel like this should just be a fucking conversation.
Yeah, but you have like a viewpoint. Why is this happening?
I believe that, like, first of all, this idea that like we don't want Wall Street money funding developers is like why the independent organizations exist with their own known processes for how they do the grants, and that we are basically, there is a reputational element to it, right? Like almost like a web of trust, where like if you are donating to something like OpenSats, you're doing it under this belief that 5 of 9 of the people aren't corruptible and that there aren't strings attached, right? Because the key is that the Wall Street money is, in this case, is separate from the actual grant allocation process, right? Like it's independent of that grant allocation process. And I will say personally, and you can believe me or you don't have to believe me, right? This is part of that reputational aspect, is that like if someone donated to OpenSats and was like, I want this particular change in Bitcoin and that's why I'm donating to you, I would just tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, you can't donate to OpenSats. Like, we will not do that. And I believe that's the same with many of the other organizations in the space. I think that there's a misbelief, a flawed perception that we don't need any more code work on Bitcoin, and that it's only it's a liability, and we can just buy Bitcoin, never move it, and it'll just go up in price. And maybe that's true. I don't pretend like that's not the case, right? That probably would be the case for 5 years, 10 years. But I think that kind of developer apathy, like when you have that kind of developer apathy and you just neglect any kind of development for that long of a period of time, then we lose we lose the people that are actually capable of working on this stuff. And when issues arise and when we don't actually have small improvements made and maintenance done, is when you have a bigger kind of catastrophic failure. And that's what I want to avoid. And I think there's I think for a lot of people, like Bitcoin, and this is why like a large focus of my work for so many years has been on like on the ground education, like working with people on just like sending Bitcoin, like holding your own keys, right? Like if Bitcoin is just like an integer in your Charles Schwab account, like I think it's relatively easy to believe that it doesn't need any. What are the developers there for except to fuck shit up? And I just think I think it's a flawed perception. But once again, like the good part is Bitcoiners are filled with many different stakeholders with many different perceptions, and it doesn't really matter what a subset, believes. I think Bitcoin continues to be robust and strong and move forward. It's just incredibly frustrating that these kind of conversations are happening behind the scenes, and not out in the open.
Have you reached out to Sailor at all?
Whoa, Marcus, I think you know the rules as well as everybody else. I see Rusty's hand up here.
God damn it.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd reached out to Sailor yourself.
No, I mean I've had people talk to Sailor about the topic. I have no relationship with Sailor. I've never had dinner with him. I've never done any. He's not like I know him from the internet. But
Me and Sailor are kind of buddies. I might send him a
yeah, why
quick
don't you
DM
talk
and
to him?
just get to that. Yeah, I'll send him a quick DM now, and I'll see if I can get an answer by the end of the show. I just
Get him on the
teasing him.
show. I know he's listening right now. Get him on.
I used up all my favors getting him to vote for Becca in that popularity contest on Twitter, and I thought,
That yellow
the
one.
important stuff.
That yellow.
I
Well
don't think I've
spent.
got any favors.
Well spent.
I don't got any favors left. I do have a question though, Matt, and it's changing gears a little bit. But you gave out hats for people that didn't get the blue tick. It was something along those lines.
Yes, sir.
So there's some breaking news coming out today that Elon Musk is taking away the ODELL function of being able to get the hat and have the blue tick. So they're taking away the ODELL feature where you can hide your blue tick. And I'm just wondering, when that happens and people are exposed, is there going to be like a mass recall of blue tick hats?
I mean, I think they should voluntarily return the hat out of shame. But I'm not going to like go into people's houses and take the hats back. I think I printed about like 40 of them and I just gave them away to people who said they didn't have a blue check. There wasn't very much verification involved in the process.
And asking for a friend, where should we send those hats back?
I mean, just delete your Twitter.
Okay. All right.
Dude, if we delete our Twitter account, like, who the fuck am I gonna troll in fucking Noster? Really? Like, who is on Noster to troll? It's like us again.
No.
Trolling other plebs.
Here's the thing, right? It's like the Bitcoiners take over Noster, and then Bitcoin pumps, and then for people to troll the Bitcoiners, they have to come on Noster. So you have the no coiners, like the Bitcoin deniers will come on Noster. They'll to troll the Bitcoiners. And then
you gotta understand Okay,
We'll
I
fill out
understand
everyone
the
with a tweet.
I understand the bait narrative, great narrative, right? But you're taking away like 90% of my content here. I can do both. What I'm saying, I can do both.
Okay, do what you want, Yellow. I'm not telling you what to do, but you should consider it. I will say that like Bitcoin Twitter 6 years ago, 7 years ago was like there was no one there. It was like a fucking ghost town.
Yeah.
And we bootstrapped it once before, and I think we can bootstrap it again. And also just, you know, if you enjoy trolling the no corners and the Bitcoin deniers, like it is what it is. Like I get that. But at least at my point in my journey, like I enjoy just kicking it with the ride or dies and fucking around. Like I'm not trying to I don't need to like interact with like the normie new cycle Bitcoiners this cycle. I'm
And
exhausted.
that's how you know you're in a cult.
What?
That's how you know you're in a cult.
It's true. I don't deny it, but you know, life is short and time is precious, and I'm not trying to like explain self-custody after every tweet. Like that's just exhausting. I remember last cycle, I was like, I would say like at the top of last cycle, I was like, not your keys, not your coins, like BlockFi is a lobster trap. And people were like, FUD, this is like fucking conspiracy. Like, why is he fudding? Like
Yeah.
BlockFi is amazing. Like Mt. Gox was 10 years ago. Like, and I fought with them over it, you know, and I don't feel like doing it anymore.
Where are they now? Where are those people now? Yeah.
They're either holding their own keys and they learned a very expensive lesson, or they're going to buy the top again. It's like usually how it works. Like most people have to get burned before. I mean, I got burned before. It's like stay humble didn't come out of nowhere. Like fucking insane. Made a lot of stupid decisions.
I think everybody in this Zoom call has been burned at one point or another. Yep.
Like I didn't even
Speaking of
know
which,
All over the
BitMEX
place.
I didn't back in the day. Like I didn't know BitMEX had like functioning withdrawal system. It was just like you deposit, you just like lose your money, and then you just add more to it. Like that was just how it worked. and then I was like, oh shit! Like I should just. I'm not a trader. I can't trade for shit.
Okay, doing a recap. Sailor is being a no buddy. All of a sudden, from hidden doors, we don't know why. The ETFs are gaining more and more percentage of the pie in my timeline and in content, and we need a solution to deal with the UDIs.
I mean, look, I
And
think
the hat. And the hat,
fine.
Yellow, the blue tick hat. We got it. That's in the.
We forgot. We also forgot to mention Weinekiss' favorite meme, which is "Don't fund the
No,
devs,
you
fund the
cannot
memers."
talk, son. Fuck you, son. You don't talk. You bring me my GBL speaker back first, and then you talk. You hear me that? You hear that?
We
God
talk
damn
about
it,
the
son!
speaker.
Of course you can
How
hear it.
dare
Playing
you?
through the
How dare
speaker.
you sold me to me? God damn it!
That's a
It's
good
right here. Yes, let's go.
You could hear him loud and clear through that speaker, right?
I just wanted to, like, I don't think like the ETFs themselves are an attack on Bitcoin. Like the whole point of Bitcoin is it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you have, you don't have any more influence over the protocol. That's like the beauty. That's what like a lot of the proof of stake people miss, among many other things. But the beauty of Bitcoin is that owning more Bitcoin doesn't give you more influence over the network. So I think most concerns over the ETFs are overblown.
Well, not necessarily. So, like, what about Mara organizing that one block to make it look like their own thing?
I think this.
I guess it's not over the protocol; it's just over
Like a dick pact.
a block. Yeah,
There's bigger concerns on the mining side. I mean, we haven't. Like I think Bitcoin mining is relatively robust, but I think Mononaut came out with a report that was over 50% of a mining pool, like a hash rate among multiple mining pools, were using the same custodian to construct blocks and pool mining rewards, because they all use PPS, which is
Except for Ocean.
yeah, Ocean isn't. There's a couple that aren't. Foundry isn't using it. Foundry has its own issues, obviously. It's a KYC mining pool in America, but like there are still some concerns on the mining side. That's a different I think that's a different conversation than holding a lot of Bitcoin. Like strictly holding a lot of Bitcoin, what can you do if you hold a lot of Bitcoin? You can dump that Bitcoin and you can hurt the price short term, but you don't actually have any outsized influence on the protocol.
You can hire lots of midgets. That's what Labra's doing. Just a lot of hiring of midgets.
There you go.
Yes, yes,
Or to call them out.
yes. I think what we need to resolve all these issues is a centralized entity, maybe name it Bitcoin Foundation. That went very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, that was fucking horrible.
I know.
And I mean, we intentionally, like when we were building OpenSats, like we took a lot of the lessons from like the failures of Bitcoin Foundation. Definitely do not want to emulate that. But yeah,
Did you bring Roger Vero in as an advisor for that?
Yeah, I mean, fuck Roger. What I want to say is just I want more people supporting devs, financially and through other means, and the more the better. Like that's the ideal situation. I think it's one of the biggest problems or the biggest concerns that we have in Bitcoin at this point. Is just like training new devs on the education side, supporting them once they're in the ecosystem. And there's still a lot of work to be done on that front. And like I think any major stakeholder of Bitcoin should be concerned about that and should be proactive about it.
Odell,
Yeah, I agree.
Damn it,
And
Russell.
I think you follow. Oh yeah, I don't have my hand up, but you obviously know a lot more about which devs are good devs, which devs are working on what, and etc. So I think for like a lot of the plebs, including me, I have no clue who I would have to send sats to. So I guess you're sending some money to OpenSats, and it should get to the right place, right? I'm just giving people some practical advice if they want to donate.
I mean,
And
that's why
what kind
OpenSats exists, right?
what
Like,
percentage of your stack should you be sending to devs? And should you DCA that to devs, or should it just be like lump sum? Or
look, I think it's on an individual basis. But we are tax deductible. So like in a bull market, like if you have a large portion of taxes, like
yeah, but I'm not in the States, so that's not relevant to me, to be honest.
okay, there you go. Well, you know, I would also like to see organizations in other countries that are tax deductible in those specific countries so that people could get a tax deductible status. But otherwise, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. I probably personally donate too much. Anything helps. But it's not just donating, right? It's being there for them, supporting them, having them on the shows, you know, helping them get exposure for their projects. There's like plenty of ways you can support open source devs without, you know, specifically giving them a finite. I think for most, especially early on, if you're like early on in your Bitcoin journey, like just stay on those tax sats. Like don't overthink it. Like I think I'm very consistent on that front. I think if you're an incredibly profitable business and you completely rely on Bitcoin, like you should consider like actively supporting developers. Like that should be even more proactive reason to do it. But if you're like a small stack early Bitcoiner, like focus on just staying up on stacking sats and like learning how to use the tools and actually using them, right?
What if somebody wants to volunteer? Who do they chat to? Who do they reach out to?
Well, OpenSats I believe we're accepting volunteer applications. Gigi might kill me because we might have too many volunteer applications. We might have too little. It's also, that's hard, you know, like finding good people and having the right fit for an organization. But OpenSats specifically is incredibly lean. Like we're 100% pass through. So if you donate to the regular, to our general fund, we get none of that money. And then we have a separate operations fund that funds our operations. It pays Gigi's full-time salary and it pays a few part-time people. But we're a very small operation, very lean. So we do rely on a lot of volunteers, particularly in like different countries so that they can go out and meet potential donors, meet potential grant recipients. I mean, it's hard to review. I think we had over 600 applications and we have over 100 grants this year. So like it's a lot, and all the board has to review everything before things get approved and paid out. And like we have seen frustrations, like we have had growing pains in terms of response time and like what kind of feedback we give developers. But I would say like the single biggest thing that individuals could do is like if you use an open source project, like giving feedback back to those devs directly, right? This is the kind of issues I've had. A lot of them have communities built up around them. You see this a lot, like with the Sparrow or like I keep bringing up Sparrow, but like or like a Start9 or like a BTC Pay server or like an LN Bits. They have communities built up around them, and a lot of times developers have a developer first focus, right? They can't. It's hard for them to put themselves in the shoes of a brand new Bitcoiner that's coming into their project and has no idea what the fuck's going on. So even if you feel like you're inadequate, right? Like that actually gives you a unique perspective when you're using these tools, and the kind of feedback you can give can be very helpful.
Matt, I want to be mindful of the time here. It looks like Rusty's been waiting to ask a question, so I want to make sure he's got it. And then I want to run to Artie's question so we can close this out and let you get back to your family vacation.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate that. I did have a question. So have you thought about what happens if you gave open source developers too much money? Like if you gave them too much money, would they just get a drug habit and get Lambos and then nothing would get done?
I mean, I think there is like I think the analogy would be like the problems that have happened with academia and tenure, where there's like a lot of flawed incentives there, where they can just fuck off and they have like complete job security and they have like complete salaries and and I think a lot of failure in academia, and once again, not an expert in academia, can probably be pointed to in the tenure process. This idea that like a professor is like basically locked in on a salary and a job. We are so far away from that. I mean, we probably should have better processes in terms of review and whatnot. But like even like one thing that I'm really proud of at OpenSats is our long-term support grant, which is a 2-year fixed grant where they get paid out monthly, right? So they get a Bitcoin payment every month. And most of them, I believe, have chosen to have that denominated in fiat, right? So they get the same amount of dollars or euros worth of Bitcoin, and the amount of Bitcoin obviously changes every month for 2 years. But then after those 2 years, like they have a review process. And even that, I think, is a very competitive grant size. Like it's a decent amount of money, but like they can make way more money going to Apple, going to Google, going to any of the shitcoin companies, going to any of the quote unquote Bitcoin companies that are pretending they're layer twos right now and have tokens. Like there's a million different avenues where they can make more money. We're like we're just offering them a higher integrity way of living their life and focusing on something they actually believe on. It's not like fuck you insane amounts of money. And even with that, once again, there is a review process. When the grant comes up for renewal, we go through a review process. And all the different organizations have different processes. But like it's so far away from being an issue, personally, from my experience.
Why devs? Why are devs special?
Yeah, what about the memers?
We don't got time for that.
No.
Nobody got no time for
Really.
that.
Some people are asking this question. Why should be funding devs to do work that they should be doing in their own time?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't agree with the question, but some people are asking.
We rely on them, and if you think that, I mean, OpenSats is we're a little bit opening up our scope to like education projects and stuff like that. But I think if you think that there's something else or something in addition that deserves funding and support, like be the change you want to see in the world. And
yeah, but like were you paid personally, ODELL, to make your own business around Bitcoin? You weren't. You made it by yourself.
I mean, but even me, like I probably would have just been better off just staying humble and stacking sats and just like working a cubicle job. Like
Yeah, exactly. And you chose to make a business
hard.
around Bitcoin. That's what I'm saying.
It's hard to
Nobody
work.
funded you.
It's hard to work in Bitcoin with integrity and do anything that's a competitive salary of doing something else. I think it's very difficult, and anyone who's attempted to try has noticed that. But I think the mission is important, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing. Like, I actually love working on this stuff. I love working with developers. I love working with founders. I think there's, some of the coolest people in the world, and it's really fucking awesome to do. And I can sleep well at night. Like, I feel good about it. But like in terms of Bitcoin and other open source projects, like, I think that is actionable change. Like, me personally, I think like politics aren't going to save us. I think, lobbying a politician isn't going to save us. I think signing a petition isn't going to help us. I think actual like people using tools that empower them and are able to defend their freedom themselves is like what actually changes the world for the better. And then you basically have two paths there. You can be a developer and be a prolific developer, or you can support them. And I'm not a very good developer.
I think for everyone listening,
my time has been better spent supporting them, and I rely on them. Like, my family relies on them. Like, that is our hope.
For anyone listening, the answer, the simple answer is however we spin this thing of ours, how many podcasts you do, however like financial like backstory you present in, however by fucking memes you make, or however you want to split it, like the spiritual like kind of like link to it or whatever. In the end, it's code, and code needs maintenance, right?
Yes, exactly. Nailed it.
Yeah, I actually look maybe one level higher. It's like, did Satoshi think about this, right? And aren't the incentives kind of like built in? Because we're all relying on this code to store our wealth. And if something, whether it's something being outdated or some kind of feature or whatever, if that threatens our wealth, then we're all going to rush in to spend some of that wealth to protect it, right?
I mean, but that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think it's incredibly important to support developers. And I think other people realize that as well. Like, the incentive incentivizes humans to do things, to try and push the movement forward. But then you actually have to do the things. You can't just like listen to 10,000 hours of podcasts and like shit happens. Like, at the end of the day, someone's got to do shit. Someone's got to do the things.
Yeah. Somebody's got to build the road.
You know who had a great speech?
Who will run the nodes?
Is Palmer talking about developers. I was thinking about that. That's all. But yeah, it looks like we've come to the end of our time. So I want to tell Matt, thank you for making the time to come on and see us. Thank you for everybody who joined us in the chat and the live stream. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day.
I see you on Facebook, Matt.
Yellow, are you on TikTok?
No.
The most no corners are on TikTok. If you want to troll people, it's probably a good place to be.
I'll download it now in my burner phone.
Guys, thanks for having me. And I know it wasn't your usual conversation, but I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate
Yeah, we didn't even get the RD question.
No, we didn't do it. But I did get the scores.
I haven't got my notes.
I got the
Yeah.
I haven't got my notes anyway.
I didn't get to ask my question
Thanks,
either.
ODELL.
You don't get to ask a question,
Sean
Sean.
doesn't have a question anymore.
Yes, I do.
That's sad.
Matt, you got to come to the next having party, man.
Yeah, you do.
What are you doing? Why were you not down at the last one?
Is that a question? I'll see you in 4 years.
The Santorini one?
What's the block height, Sean?
Will you actually see us in 4 years, though?
I don't know.
All right.
We'll find out. But I was bummed I missed it. I've heard it was a good time. I did have FOMO. It is true.
I was bummed you weren't there, too.
Yeah.